we can create immutable deterministic rules about how many tokens can exist and what share of them go to different parties and how those shares are released to those parties over time. These contracts are now at the heart of how blockchain startups raise capital today, offering several improvements over the old ICO fundraising method, which got badly tarnished by several scandals in 2017. Hey everyone, this video is sampled from my online course which teaches you tokenomics for fundraising. You'll learn about the fundraising process, key tokenomic concepts, and get a complete spreadsheet model that you'll learn how to use by solving real-world fundraising problems. You can find the link to the full course in the description section below. And if you'd like to support this channel and help me to create more free content, please like, share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. That's all. Now back to the video. Remember, at their heart, smart contracts are just programmable code. Given enough resources, they could perform any computable task. Although what's novel and interesting is that they can perform work upon a set of digital asset primitives that have the special control and security properties and all the human behaviors that ride on top of them. So in this section, I want to highlight a few broad areas of applications that help to illustrate the range and variety of possibilities that we can create with these tools. And as we go through them, try and keep in mind that these applications aren't exercises in magic. Every viable smart contract implementation still rests on the two fundamental requirements that we said were needed to make truly self-verifying and self-executing contracts. First, the smart contract needs to be able to fully control the outcomes that we are interested in. Secondly, the contract needs to be able to receive data that's required to exercise the control we desire. The first of these general benefits that we're going to cover is business process automation. We saw that contracting allows us to automate and to reduce risks in a business's dealings with external parties. But we can use smart contracts to achieve similar results within a single business, to automate and more tightly coordinate separate and distinct processes within that enterprise. A common application in this area is the enhancement of inventory management and supply chain tracking and control. In the latter case, notice that there are multiple points of transfer between different systems and parties and opportunities for error and fraud to occur. An ideal value-add opportunity for blockchain security. Process automation can even go as far as creating complex services that are almost entirely free of human administrators. Consider the example of a decentralized exchange. In these exchanges, people never directly trade with each other. Instead, they trade with a robot which is always available and ready to offer exchange at a price that it quotes. That price quote is determined by a set of fully transparent rules that depend on the amount the user wishes to exchange and the quantities of tokens that the robot holds for each token pair offered in that exchange. Those savings are provided by other individuals, and they are compensated for this service by being offered a cut of the fees that are taken by the robot from the people who accept the price and make their exchange. Now, it's true that access to this facility is served through a web browser which still needs human development and maintenance, but the exchange mechanism itself is fully automated and decentralized. The decentralized exchange is a prime example of how smart contracts are being leveraged to create decentralized finance solutions, or what's more commonly known as DeFi. IoT, or the Internet of Things, is another broad opportunity for blockchain technology. The Internet of Things refers to the trend of our electronic devices and appliances to become ever more internet connected. This allows them to be used and controlled in more sophisticated ways, thanks to the data that they receive from the internet and the data they send back, which enhances what we can do with these interactive devices. By developing IoT applications using public blockchain platforms, developers have the opportunity for these devices to interact with assets and economic value that is registered on those ledgers. They can also leverage cryptographic properties to create trustless safeguards for sensitive data and access privileges that are trustless in nature. They also have the opportunity to embed their services in a more open source oriented economy that may enable new apps and/or utilities to be created for their devices by third-party developers. Smart contracts can be used to build entertainment and socially oriented applications as well. Often, these involve the design of systems which reward or penalize users with digital tokens, either by automatic means or through mechanisms that users can exercise voluntarily. What is worthy of reward or penalty is entirely open, and this presents an opportunity for communities to define their own set of values and standards. This is taken to its furthest reach in video game design, where costs and benefits are assigned according to that game's fictional setting, which may be slaying a dragon or crafting fine weapons. But we're not limited to fantasy here. These opportunities to design ways in which we can support each other and exchange value are likely to enrich and develop how we create, reward, and distribute content on social media platforms as well. There are plenty of projects out there that are working to create platforms that would extend income generation to smaller scale content creators in comparison to the dominant content platforms of today. Then we have governance. We can use smart contracts to build new and transparent voting systems that take collective actions with material, financial, and economic outcomes. These mechanisms allow a community to pull funds together into a communal treasury that is now under exclusive control of a known voting process. Users can participate, knowing that the funds cannot be moved from this wallet except for when it passes procedures defined by this voting protocol. Remember that this will be openly verifiable in the code and cryptographically secured. These communities can now be given some explicit guarantees on how funds will not be used. Arrangements like these pave the way for new kinds of communally administrated projects. Why not have a niche movie or game production studio that finally creates the things you really want instead of all those tired, bland, unoriginal mass market productions that the big studios churn out week after week after week? Okay, so these extra use cases really are just a quick survey of some of the ideas that are currently being explored. The space is much, much bigger, and any one of these applications could be combined with the others to create something bigger and even more powerful. Many of the possible services almost certainly have not yet been imagined, just like almost nobody would have imagined an Instagram or an Uber before the internet. But there is one more smart contract use that I'll mention specifically, because it is one of the ones most relevant to us in this particular course on token sale tokenomics. We can use smart contracts to create and manage the supply of new digital tokens. In particular, we can create immutable deterministic rules about how many tokens can exist, and what share of them go to different parties, and how those shares are released to those parties over time. These contracts are now at the heart of how blockchain startups raise capital today, offering several improvements over the old ICO fundraising method, which got badly tarnished by several scandals in 2017. The immutability and verifiability of all these token supply facts provide important information that help potential investors assess their investment prospects. Our focus after this introductory material will be to learn how investors and other stakeholders reason about these token supply data and use that understanding to choose the specific terms for these contracts with the aim of satisfying varied and competing stakeholder interests. The right, well-balanced offer will bring all these stakeholder groups on board to maximize that project's given chances of success. Okay, so let's quickly recap this section. We've seen that the name smart contract came from it initially being conceived as a means to improve our ability to solve contracting problems. Contracts are needed when two or more parties make a promise to behave in a certain way, but have freedom to do otherwise. A smart contract makes it impossible for the agreement not to be fulfilled thanks to the cryptographic security provided by blockchain architectures. This is made possible because ideal smart contracts are self-verifying and self-executing. Smart contracts can deliver these properties when they handle agreements that can be expressed in code, only involve digital assets, and involve conditions that can be reliably digitally communicated to the blockchain. Smart contracts can do more than just build contracts of the kind we're familiar with, and their applications are really open-ended. So in this larger context, we are better off thinking of them as being more like an app development platform. Finally, we finished off by looking at how smart contracts have changed the fundraising model for blockchain startups by providing cryptographically secured controls on token supply, token allocations, and the releasing of these allocations to their respective parties. And now it's time for the final section of this marathon lecture. We've profiled a number of specific applications using public smart contracts and hopefully communicated a compelling value proposition for each one of them. But before we finish, I think it's a good idea to now go around the topic of value creation one more time, shifting the emphasis from a question of what can we do with this technology to what does it mean? I'm hoping that this will help settle your understanding of the business relevance of this technology in more general terms, and it should also help give you a few value-add themes to keep an eye out for when you're evaluating a new blockchain project, or in case you're considering the possible benefits of applying this technology to an operational business or a pre-existing business model. Let's preview the main points I'll cover in this section.